Hello, and welcome to another episode of Needle Stack. This week, very exciting episode. As you can see, I'm virtual bed. That's unusual, and that's because we're on the road this week. We're in Vegas for Hackers Summer Camp. I'm one of your hosts, AJ Nash, and I'm joined by my other host.
I'm Robert Famosi.
And so, as you can see, we're obviously in an unusual location, both of us in hotels here in Vegas, because it's the only place you can find a quiet spot to have these conversations. Frankly, we want to do it from the floor, but all you're going to hear is people losing money all day. So we decided to go a different direction. And so it's really exciting to be here. It's a long time. If you've never been to Vegas, don't come. No, I'm just kidding. If you haven't been to Hackers Summer Camp, I highly recommend it, but it's long, right? You've got BSides, you've got Dianna Initiative, you've got Black Hat, you've got DEF CON. And if you do all of those things, you need a vacation from your vacation. So, Rob, what are we going to talk about while we're out here today? What should we jump into?
There was a talk at Black Hat that I attended that's relevant to the intelligence community. But I think I wanted to talk a little bit about what brings intelligence professionals to Hacker Summer Camp, because my background is in cybersecurity, and I've been coming for this my 26th year attending Black Hat and DEF CON. And I come here for the cybersecurity, and I hadn't really thought of it as an intelligence playground, but you can correct me on that because you've been coming here almost as long.
Well, I'd like to say as long, not quite, but I have been coming for, 15 years or so, I suppose. And yeah, there's definitely an intelligence component to this, right? And so there's a number of factors. So you've got feds, you got government space, right? DEF CON has their Stop the Fed, has been around forever, right? And so that's all been a DEF CON joke. But the government certainly is here. There's advantages to being out here and learning, what's the new tradecraft? What are people doing, right? And that's, for Black Hat, you'll get it from a commercial standpoint, certainly what new vendors are out there, what new concepts and techniques and things like that. And when you get into, say, DEF CON, that's really kind of the more nitty gritty. What are people doing behind the scenes? What should we be learning? It's not as much the whole adversarial, who are we going to arrest? That's not really going on.
That did happen back in the Alexis Park days. So
that's true. There's a history there for sure. There's been more of a partnership, I think, over the last several years. The government sees the private sector and then the hacker community as partners, right? There's a lot of talent to work through. So I think there's been more of a change in that. It's not perfect. But then for the rest of the, Intel folks, like practitioners like myself, whether it's government or private sector, there's just an endless supply of learning to be done here, and networking and hiring. There's a whole gamut of things to learn. And if you're in the Intel world, whether you're in government or private sector, we're always learning, right? You never know everything. There's always something new. What's the latest threat? What's the latest actor? What's the latest hack? What's the latest vulnerability? And this is a place to get all of that. So I've been coming here for a long time because you can do all of that. And again, there's different venues, so it's different contexts. You go to something like a Black Hat, a lot of vendors, a lot of commercial aspects, who's selling what's real, what's, vaporware, all those things. And then DEF CON is really the nitty gritty. Like I said, you get to talk to real practitioners and learn all sorts of cool things, and experience, life in a different fashion, see what it's like to just be hacking all the time, even if it's not what you do. So there's definitely a lot here for Intel professionals.
Yeah. So as I mentioned, one of the keynotes this year was given by Ron Diebert, who is a political science professor with the Munk School of Global Affairs and Public Policy at the University of Toronto. And he's written a book called Chasing the Shadows. And one of the things that he's been doing with Citizen Lab, which is something that he runs with a bunch of other people up there, is they've been tracking down spyware and ways in which journalists have been targeted, human rights people have been targeted, the Dalai Lama, etc. They're famous for going after Pegasus, which was a spyware that was put on people's iPhones, and it was interesting to hear that at DEF CON at Black Hat, because it's very different from, as you just said, learning about the vulnerabilities, learning about the threat actors and so forth. And he's talking about how to bring research-based intelligence into the real world, i.e., it isn't just like they go out and say, this is cool, we're going to... It's an academic program that they run. University of Toronto is one of the more rigorous schools in the world. And so, they bring an academic rigor to their intelligence report.
Yeah, I'm familiar with some of their work. It's really interesting and somewhat controversial. I'm sure some people who are going to listen or watch are familiar, and that's fine. You can have your opinions on where they stand on this. I agree with you that they're a very well-respected university, and it's a good example of the kind of things that happen out here that you're just not going to get someplace else. You're not going to be in a position as an Intel professional, whether in the private sector or the government, to run up to Toronto to talk to these guys. Right. And to have this back and forth conversation with a bunch of other professionals around and have, a roundtable discussion or, something similar to that, an open forum, or be able to sit down and grab a one-on-one, grab coffee or lunch with somebody, pick their brain on how they do things. That's a good example, right? There's plenty of commercialism here. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of people who lament that there's a lot of salesmanship going on here. There's also, by the way, an awful lot of partying, of course. If you want to come hang out and get all the free drinks and food you want, you don't even have to go to the conferences. You just wander into any party and they'll treat you like a hero and feed you. But I think that's a good example of what you're talking about, in that there are just things you can't do other places. Where can you get together with people from 12 different companies that you rarely ever see in person, or a couple different agencies and an academic, and have these discussions and learn about how to be better, right? This is, I would say, to me, Hacker Summer Camp, the whole week, et cetera, Vegas, it's like an accelerator. What we're doing all year, then we come out here, and it recharges you. You get burnt out in this industry sometimes. This could be a bit of a recharge. It gives you new ideas, new things to chase, new people to know, new networks. It really is, to me, it's a recharger or an amplifier of what we do, because it's a hard job, right? And this is a place where you can have some fun doing it. You get really hot, unfortunately, but I think there's a lot there, and you gave a great example of that. That's a talk I just wouldn't have found anywhere else.
Right. And to your point, it's a whole ecosystem. Hacker Summer Camp has multiple things going on. There's Squadcom, which is based on, it's focused on bringing people of color into the industry. You've got the Dianna Initiative, which is focused on bringing more women into the industry. You've got BSides, which started here in Las Vegas and has gone to over 100 different locations around the world over the last 12 years. You've got DEF CON, which is the original event that occurred. And then Black Hat came out of that as a commercial, to your point, conference. A lot of people refer to Black Hat as like going to college classes that are very formal and strict and so forth. And then DEF CON is the party on the weekend where no holds barred. I must say, in the early days, Black Hat was equally crazy. Elevators would get hacked in Caesar's Palace, crazy stuff. They would shut down. One year, they shut down the entire internet because they couldn't secure it in the individual rooms because of Black Hat, not DEF CON. DEF CON was down the street at Alexis Park, which was this tiny hotel. And the idea there was that it didn't have alcohol, so they could have kids under 18 stay in Alexis Park. A lot of things have changed now. And so you don't have that issue anymore. And DEF CON this year is going to be at the convention center, which is huge.
Yeah. It's the second year at the convention center. And I mean, DEF CON's enormous. Like you said, this started, a few people in a hotel room, basically, right? It was a really small, it's the kind of thing you wouldn't have expected was going to grow into this. That wasn't the thought when people started this. And now they're talking 30,000 people will attend. The convention center is absolutely enormous. Moved there last year, in part because there's disagreements with, I'm sure, the previous hosts. It's been to a couple of different hotels. And listen, if you host tens of thousands of hackers, it's not always a great time for the hotel. Sometimes they don't love that experience. They love the money, but it's challenging. And there's other opportunities. So convention center was fantastic. It was a great host last year. It'll be huge again this year. But yeah, it's very different, right? This is not the wander in, as you feel like it with, and hang out, in a hotel room. Now it's expensive, comparatively, not as much as some of the bigger conferences, but it's not cheap anymore. It used to be, $100, $150. Now it's much more. You get a lot of value for it. But yeah, it's a different experience, right? It's bigger. I like that you talked about college courses versus like the weekend parties. I think there's something to be said for that. It is a little wilder for sure. It's not dangerous. And a lot of the stories people hear are either old that don't exist anymore, or they've been fabricated or just, built up over time. But it is a great people watching experience, along with learning. You can take in all sorts of different people, different cultures. You can learn, you can expand your horizons, whether it's the technical side, work, or just learning different people, different cultures, different ways of doing things. It's a really inclusive environment. They worked really hard on that over the last a handful of years, at least, to be more inclusive. It's a challenge in tech and industry, especially in hacking, that it hasn't been very good at that. And so DEF CON's been one of the groups leading the way to try to make it more inclusive. So more will go, and it's still welcoming to kids. They still have people show up that are kids, high school kids, middle school kids, that are out there, their first hacks, their first, learning how to do things for the first time, all the way to people you'll see that are, 60, 70 years old that have been doing this for so long, and they still just have to come. It's an addictive experience. It's a big culture. Whereas DEF CON, you're not going to see kids at DEF CON. Let's face it. Did you see? I'm sorry, Black Hat, you're not going to see kids. DEF CON, you will. My mistake. At Black Hat, you're not going to see kids. Black Hat's going to be commercial. There's a lot to learn, but it's pretty much an 18 and over crowd. It's business. It's college. It's vendors. It's not quite the same experience. DEF CON, you show up, there's people sitting on the floor everywhere on their laptops, just hacking away. They're all doing something. They're capture the flag. They're doing digital hunts of other kinds. There's always something going on. You get your badge and you start hacking your badge right away. So it's a very different experience, right? And they're both great to take in. BSides also fantastic. I'm actually one of the co-founders of BSides Twin Cities. So I'm familiar with the BSides concepts and Dianna Initiative, as you mentioned. These are all great places to be, but they all have their own feel and their own vibe, their own culture, and their own learnings. That's why it's great to have it all here together. It's a lot, don't get me wrong, for 10, 12 days. It's a grind, but it sets you up for a whole nother great year. It reminds you why you do this. It's fun.
One thing that's great about DEF CON, and maybe unique to DEF CON, is what they talk about line con, where you're standing in line to get into a talk. You turn to the person next to you, you start up a conversation, and you might end up with a challenge coin. You might end up making a friendship. It's really cool. And I must say that doesn't really happen with Black Hat. You walk into a room, you find an empty seat, you sit down, the talk starts, talk ends, you leave. It's like any other conference, but DEF CON has a different vibe, as you put it. It feels very different from others. And like I said, LineCon is something that I think might be unique to it, but I've met several great people just by standing next to them in the hallway. It's crazy. And when I spoke at DEF CON one year, I was marshaled in and out of the room by a goon. You're a goon. Maybe you could explain what that means to someone who hasn't been to DEF CON.
Yeah, I am a goon. I'm thankful that I get to be. I've been doing this for a few years now. And so the goons they handle everything that you see out front and in the back for that matter. Whether it's the sock or the knock, that's all goons as well. This is a nickname. I'm not wearing my goon shirt. I've been wearing a red shirt, so it's the same color. But everybody walking the floor, they have red shirts on with name tags. It's special. And so they keep track of everything, whether it's keeping traffic moving in the hallways, whether it's keeping like I said, speakers coming in and out, information desk, whether it's selling merchandise, handling security issues when they come up, collaborating with local law enforcement if necessary for more serious issues. The goons run DEF CON. I mean, that's how it works, and it's an all volunteer organization. So we all volunteer to come out here and do this. It's not compensated. We do get some rooms and food, but the rest of it is on our own. We come out here because that's part of the community. And people have different reasons for doing it. But I think the one thread through all of it is just wanting to contribute, and it doesn't matter what your background is necessarily. Like I'm lucky enough to have the opportunity. For years I wanted to, but I thought, well, I'm not really technical. I'm not that much of a hacker. I probably shouldn't put myself in that position. But people were very inclusive. And I said, I want to give back. This is a community I care about. And I want to be able to do something for people. And, being a part of that organization, coming in and helping make sure that it's safe and it's organized and it's fun, there's a lot of fun involved too. It's important. Goons throw good parties too. And we keep track of that. And we make sure that people are safe, and we make sure that people aren't being harassed. And that this is an environment where you should be able to come and learn and have fun, fear-free. And the goons' job is to do that. Now, I'm going to tell you the truth. My first DEF CON, long time ago now, goons were a little bit different. The gooning has changed over the years. It was a little bit more like Dick's Last Resort, the restaurant, if you've heard of it. And that goons really kind of gave you a hard time. It was part of the culture. And it was fine. It wasn't bad. It was all in good fun. But I remember my first year coming in, and I asked somebody at information booth like where talk was. And if I remember correctly, I think I had to sing I'm a Little Teapot, short and stout, before they would give me, I had to sing the whole song before they would give me the directions. We don't do that anymore. It's not really customer friendly, so to speak. We will just say, here's the map, and we'll show them. We might think that, but nobody does that anymore. So it's changed a little bit because you want to make sure that people don't feel, we want them to ask questions. You want them to feel, badly about doing it. Goons are here to support everybody and to serve. And it's a great opportunity to do so. And I'm lucky to be able to do it. Handle a lot of things behind the scenes as well. And then people are segmented out. So the person who's doing merchandise probably does merch the whole time. Or if you're doing the information desk, you're probably there the whole time. People are doing the floor and sock duties and knock and things like that. That's their role, right? So we don't rotate. We might year to year. But when you're here, you know what you're going to be doing. and we're here as long as the event's open. So like I'm third shift. So I tonight will start working actually after a whole day of Black Hat. I get to work at 7:00 tonight I'll be gooning until 3 a.m. But it's fun, man. It's a good time. Where else can you go where you could walk down the hallways, squeaking rubber chickens and, throwing beach balls around and just goofing around with people and tossing stickers in the air. It just, help people have a good time and keep things light and lively and make sure people get a chance to have the most, pleasant experience they can, man. It's a lot of fun.
So 30,000 people, but that's not necessarily the case in the sense that you're not all going to the same talks. There's only like 6 talks at a time. There are villages. And I think there's some 30 plus villages now that are topic specific. So like I'd be drawn to the IoT or ICS village, for example. Is there an intelligence one or one that talks about human intelligence or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, the villages are fantastic, right? And I'll put a plug in, although people won't get this until after the fact. Aerospace Village this year. Most villages have their own like custom badges too. So aside from the regular badge you get, most villages also create their own. A lot of people create custom badges. Aerospace has a really cool one this year. It looks like a pilot's helmet, and it's a whole lot of pieces of equipment that were designed for the purposes they've now designed them for. But you can pick in radio frequencies through it. It's very, very cool. Anyway, to answer your question though about the villages. There's a couple of really interesting ones tied to Intel. There's always an open source down there. There's a misinformation village, which is usually really mischievous. If I'm being honest, they do good work. I will tell you, a couple of years ago there was a badge issue, and so I didn't have my badge. The Goon badges we didn't have enough at first, and we had to get more. And so I was wearing this paper badge we had come up with for Goons, and misinformation heard about this and immediately started putting out misinformation to all the humans that there are fake goons running around with fake badges and they're not real and you should stop them at any cost, etc. And I was accosted in the hallway by a whole group of humans who would not accept that I was a goon. I had to flag down another goon and be like, hey, can you please tell these people so we had to go through that process of explaining, hey, this is a hoax, etc. It was a really good lesson on misinformation. So there are definitely some there that are Intel related, and there's others. There's hacking, auto hacking, and they do medical device hacking, and there's obviously Lockpick Village, which is really, really popular for anybody who wants to learn how to pick locks. The villages are where a lot of the best stuff happens. They do some amazing demonstrations. You want to learn how to hack a Tesla, they show you how to do that kind of stuff. It's pretty awesome.
And they have their own talks, and they have their own CTFs, capture the flag competitions. So you just said human, and for someone who's not been, they may not understand that there's human and non-human. I think I'm in the non-human category because I've gone as press or I've gone as a speaker. Human is anyone else who attends. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, generally for us, it's human and inhuman. And actually, generally, I'd have to double check. I'm not an expert on all of these things. I think you're still a human. I think the only inhumans are goons, but I could be wrong. Speakers might have fallen in that category too. There are definitely different badges. I can tell you a straight human badge. There's a speaker badge. There's a sponsor. There's media badges. Then there's goons, right? So when we talk about registration, from the goon side, we'll talk about human registration versus inhuman registration, unless it's when we get our stuff. So yeah, we just talk about everybody who's attending as humans, unless they're goons, basically, which is just one of those quirks of DEF CON.
Yeah, because as I said, when I went to number 9 at Alexis Park, and it was intimate. It was this little, motel basically off of the strip. And, it was a community because you had a couple of talks, but then it devolved into a party pretty rapidly. And everybody was sitting around at like 3 a.m. talking and just, it felt like college on the weekend, hanging out, telling stories, playing music, whatever. And it went on for like 3 days. Now it has become a little more structured and formalized. But that still happens. There are still the pool parties. There's still the legendary stories that come out every year of, did you see what happened? I mean, I saw John McAfee walking through Bally's Casino and having anyway, we'll go there. Anyway, the man is no longer with us. I won't say anymore. So there's just some moments that stick with you.
We could do a whole show just on John McAfee. I'm sure he's got some legendary. Yeah, there's some legendary stories there. But no, you're right. I mean, it is. There are great parties. There's always pool parties going on. There's a lot of. I would subsections within it. So there's like VetCon, veterans can get together and talk. And there's QueerCon, for the LGBTQ plus community. And there's furries. There's old furry con. So there's, and I'm sure I'm missing a whole bunch, by the way. So I apologize for everybody. I'm not about to list, but there are places there. And a lot of people we talk, when somebody comes in new, they're like, I'm new. I don't know anybody here. And the answer is find your tribe. Like, first of all, everybody's here. Everybody finds a tribe. Most people come here. They don't know people. That's normal, right? You'll find your tribe. Like, this is a great place to do that. Maybe I'm really introverted and I just want to work on this one thing. Well, you know what? You probably run into 4 or 5 people that are like that. You'll all sit around each other, not talk to each other at all, and do the thing you like together alone. Like, there's a way to do those things. So it's a great opportunity to find your tribe. It's also an opportunity to learn about other tribes, to meet new tribes, to connect. You learn people you hadn't thought of before. And yeah, there's great stories. Obviously, there's lots of them. Hopefully people don't tell all of them. But there's always some stories. There's always some shenanigans. People do all sorts of hacking. There's always googly eyes everywhere. If you look around, you'll find googly eyes on almost everything. There's sticker exchanges, and there's, it's funny you mentioned like a college feeling. I think that's accurate, right? There's certainly some partying that goes on, but people are actually pretty responsible for the most part about it. And if they're not, we hear about it and handle it. But it's Vegas. There's going to be some of that, right? There's a few years ago now, there was torrential downpours here and flooding. And we got reports, and I saw the video later. People were tubing in the streets of Vegas. Like, just, there was that much water, and you see people like, with their pool floaty. And it was a bad idea. We're like, oh my God, that is really disgusting, dirty, filthy water. You're going to get very sick. I assume there's not pool water going down. This is awful. But it was an amazing scene. And that's what happens. People are like, most people would stay out of that. Hackers are like, how do I surf this? And we watched it all played out. Like, oh, now we know where the tide goes when it really floods in Vegas, apparently.
Yeah, it was a parking garage at Caesars that I saw somebody in a floaty going down the various ramps in the water. It was like, whatever. I mean, that was a memorable one. There was a year that locusts descended on Vegas. I was just thinking the other day as I was walking back to my hotel, I was once caught in a dust storm and didn't realize how much salt and sand and whatever had been blown at me until I got back to my room. And I was like, why am I shedding? It's like, it was just an amazing amount. There have been some crazy stuff happening during the weeks of, it's blended into like 2 weeks now. You're here for 9 days. I can't do more than 5, actually. My head just starts hurting and I got to leave. But so if you haven't tried it, maybe next year, look into it. And, like I said, it's an ecosystem. There's a lot of different things going on. So maybe don't need to do Black Hat, but you can do DEF CON, or maybe you just want to do B-Sides. B-Sides has this thing. I believe you can still do that if you volunteer. You can get in the door fairly easily. So there are all different ways to make it accessible, which I really like and really appreciate. And to your point about bringing new people in, they do have at DEF CON, they have this thing called Next Gen, where they literally take the big speakers and they say, can you spend an hour with these kids and teach them something simple that they can do, whether it be soldering, whether it's like, deconstructing a web page. And this is where it starts. You get these kids excited, and then they become the next generation. So it's a wonderful community. And I also wanted to say that it continues beyond this week. There's a Discord channel, and like on Saturday nights, they do a literally Mystery Theater 3000 type thing where they run a movie, and there's a whole chat thing going on, and you can contribute and comment. And some of these movies are really great movies. So it's not like cheesy films. It just continues throughout the year. And then there are all these various DCs that pop up around the country that you can do throughout the year. So it isn't just Hacker Summer Camp. It continues on.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. It is something that goes on. Again, Goons run that Discord channel as well. So that's communication throughout the year, and it obviously ramps up always. In the month leading up to Vegas, people really jump into there, and we have more lively conversations, and a lot it's just questions on logistics or whatever. It's really interesting. I will say, we talk about stories. One thing to think about for this year, at the same time we're all out here, and in the same hotel with the Goons, is a Star Trek convention. I'm very excited about that, to be honest with you. I'm very much looking forward to that. It's going to be very fun. I've never been to a Star Trek convention. I don't think I'll have time to actually attend to this one, but we're certainly going to run into a lot of people. So yeah, you never know. I heard about that just before we got here. I was like, I can't believe they scheduled it at the same time, but that's going to be a lot of fun. That'll be some good overlap here. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people from DEF CON will also, be Trekkers or Trekkies, depending on what term you want to use. And so there may be some overlap where people do that as well. But it's the first time I've seen that. So that's going to be a whole new aspect to see how that plays out together.
Yeah, usually it's something more mainstream. Like cabbies will say to me, "Oh, are you here for the shoe convention?" I'm like, "Oh," or the Christmas tchotchkes, because in August you want to buy the stuff that you're going to sell in November and December. It's like, no, I'm here for cybersecurity, and they're like, "Oh."
Yeah, I think last year there were. I want to say realtors maybe were last year. There was some realty convention. That was at the same time. I was like, "Oh, this is unusual." All right, and you could tell the difference. Let's face it, between the hacker community and the realtors walking around. Generally, it was a bit of a different feel, between the two groups. So you could pick people out a lot of times.
But I think it's also good because people come up to me and they say, "Should I be afraid?" And I'm like, "Afraid of what?" I think there's this perception of there's a hacker con going on, and everybody thinks like, "Ooh," but we're the good guys. We really are the good guys, and it's a way to dispel that and say, well, in particular, you and I have commented on this numerous times. Which of us looks like a hacker? Yeah, you. So, it's like, it's a way of it basically getting in the community and saying, we're just like everybody else, and we're here to protect you guys, I think.
No, exactly. I tell people do ask, like, should I be afraid? Should I not bring my computer? Should I keep my phone off? All these things. I said, listen, first of all, things have changed a little bit. I mean, some of that history exists and some still can, right? Yes, there was a time it was like, hey, don't bring a credit card in because somebody's going to, touch your wallet and steal a card number. There were people hacking ATMs. Certainly Bluetooth and Wi-Fi were not a great idea. I mean, people walked around with pineapples not that long ago. But I've told people, don't worry too much about it. Black Hat is, I know people work in the NOC at Black Hat and obviously for DEF CON as well. There's a lot of effort to make sure it's secure. It doesn't do us a lot of good. If you want it hacked all the time, you want people to show up and have a good time. I wouldn't be irresponsible with your content, what you're working on. And some people will steal things just because they want to see if they can. They don't want to do anything with it. They just want to see, how many credit card numbers can I pick up if I just sit on this corner and catch people as they're going by? How many phone numbers can I pick up? Things like that. So they'll be careful about that, but it's not dangerous in my opinion. I've come out here many years. I bring gear when I go on site. I don't really worry too much about it. I check my stuff. Obviously, there's a possibility of nefarious actors, but normally it hasn't been a big issue. I wouldn't recommend anybody be afraid to come. If you really are, it's fine. Just show up, with a burner phone and a notebook if you want to. If that's fine. If you have that level of security, there's nothing wrong with that. You'll have a good time. You don't really need a check when you're on site if you don't want it, but it shouldn't dissuade people from showing up. We want to make sure people have a good time. Crime is not tolerated. This is not that kind of environment. People are mischievous. There's kind of a fine line there sometimes with hackers, but the goal isn't to do criminal behavior while you're here. The goal is to learn and to have a good time. And sometimes learning is experiential, so people will test some things. But the elevators get hacked. It still happens. I think one got hacked already. I saw a note yesterday. I think somebody had hacked one of the elevators. And when I say hack, just so people know, it's just the screens. Like nobody's making the function stop. They just get into the screens and they blue screen it or they put messages on it or something. It's nothing dangerous. They just want to see if they can, see if the security's up to date on some of these things. So it's fun to watch if you know what it is. But I haven't seen anybody doing really dangerous or nefarious in a long time, at least.
It's on the level of pranks. It's like you hear of MIT students deconstructing a car and putting it on the roof of a building. It's pranks on that order. And a lot of fun and games, but some people don't really want that, and that's fine. And to your point, everybody has a different comfort level. I know for years I wouldn't turn on my phone while I was in DEF CON, that type of stuff. I don't feel that way today, but again, it all depends on your personal security level, and everybody's here to have a good time ultimately, and to connect with other people who, we're all over the world, and we come together in Vegas to learn from each other and grow. So,
yeah, I mean, I would actually argue, I know we're going to close out here in a minute, but I would actually argue that the reason that I don't worry as much about bringing my tech is because of events like this. The reason it was so bad before is because there wasn't a lot of tech built into our phones and computers to protect us, frankly. And so hackers were doing what you're supposed to do as a hacker. It was too easy. It was just too damn easy. So of course they're going to hack it. And they're going to pull things and they're going to say, hey, look how easy it was to do this. It's not as easy anymore. I'm not saying that we don't have hackers who can do all sorts of nefarious things that are going to be on the floor. They absolutely can. But most people were looking for this low-hanging fruit just to prove the point a lot of times of, hey, security should be embedded. It should be better, right? It's better now than it used to be. So it's not nearly as a risk because of that, because, that actually improved because of communities like this. We're able to show, oh my gosh, it's just so simple. You walked around with your phone. I know everything about you now. You walked around with your wallet and you didn't have things protected. And I've got all your information if I want to buy a car with your credit card. Like, it was just too easy before. And so I think that had a lot to do with it. Like, the talent's still there. They could go and keep getting these things and they'll demonstrate how you can hack into all sorts of systems. But I don't see people actually doing that there now like they used to, because it would take more work. It was before, I think it was a lot was just to improve the security of everything we carry around every day. Let people understand how dangerous the world can be if you're not careful. So I would actually credit groups like this, the hackers who've been coming to DEF CON, for making things better.
I agree. We should take some credit for, raising the bar and, improving the minimums on what we tolerate with security by showing how it can go terribly wrong without punishing people too badly for it. So great, AJ. We had a good discussion. Next episode, we'll be back to having guests, and look forward to having you, the audience, return for that as well. In the meantime, you can find out more about NeedleStack by going to authenticate.com/NeedleStack. That's authentic with the number 8/NeedleStack. And there's a comment button. So let us know what you think, what you like, what you don't like. We do read those comments. And be sure to share your thoughts on social media as well, because we're on Mastodon, Blue Sky, and other social media. You can find us at NeedleStack Pod. And be sure to like us where you're listening to us or watching us right now. Be sure to subscribe as well, because you want to keep seeing what we're up to and who we're going to talk to next. AJ, any closing thoughts?
No, I just want to say, I'm glad we were able to do this together. It was great to be here, and be able to experience this, because you and I have different experiences, when we're here, and obviously different going backwards. We have different points of view. We did different things this week, so it's great to connect. I'm going to stick around because I'm going to do the Goon thing and hang out with the rest of the folks, and wear out in the rest of the hot summer heat over here in Vegas. But I'm glad we were able to do this. That's a very cool opportunity, and I hope we help people want to do more of this coming up. But I'm looking forward to being back home and doing more episodes, obviously, from my own office as well.
There you go. All right. For NeedleStack, take care.